that Henry Markram is leading in Lausanne. That, I guess everyone finds that extremely interesting because he's really trying to build models of mini columns in the neocortex, which are related to our capacity to do procedural thinking.
Right.
So it would seem that that's got several good things about it. It's large scale. There are many neurons involved. It is fairly detailed because he does try to recreate the morphology of the neurons that he finds in the neocortex and the connections as well. And well, it's not real time, but it's good enough in terms of emulation speed so that they can carry out certain experiments. The problem with that project is that it bases all the information in the model on a collection of data that comes from a large number of different samples. And these are all rats, by the way, so these are not human brains, these are parts of rat brains.
Okay.
But the problem is, of course, you're taking this from a number of different subjects. So the connections that you have in there, they don't represent the connections that have been established because of the learning and the experience in one specific rat. These are a statistical amalgamation. They're really a construct. So what can you really say about this new emulated rat, or part of that rat brain, what that represents? What can you learn about those connections from this statistical replica? Also, it's hard to say really, because there's one issue that there's not enough information coming out of this project right now, but it is the most interesting one, I'd say.
Oh, okay, yeah. But would you say that's a drawback, or actually a potential positive aspect of the Blue Brain project is that they are working with neuron, or statistical representation of what connections occur in many different rat brains? Wouldn't that perhaps give a more well-rounded view of what's occurring in a typical neurocortical column of a rat brain?
I think it's the only way that this work could be done at this time. But it's useful for neuroscience, of course, because you can investigate this model, you can look at it and learn something from the statistical distribution of connections. But if you want to draw any direct conclusions about whether the activity you see in there is representative of the activity that you would find in any individual rat brain, in mini columns of the rat brains, well, that's harder to say because you can't compare directly with the kind of connections that would be set up through experience and learning in a specific individual sample. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I understand the problem there. Now, a couple other, I know some other, I guess I don't know if it's you would call it brain emulation projects, but artificial intelligence projects that have revolved around human learning. The one I'm familiar with, I don't know if you are as well, is Nova Mente's artificial general intelligence research, their Open Cog project, their Open Biomind project. Do you see any progress coming from that arena, the modeling of intelligent processes in silicon, through algorithmic processes? Do you see any artificial general intelligence breakthroughs coming relatively soon in the next couple of years?
Okay, I can't speak as an expert on that because I know Ben and I know about OpenCog and all of this, but I don't really know much about the details of how it works or anything like that. I can just say from what I've seen and what he's told me about the kind of progress they're making that, yeah, it looks like, there may be some things coming out of it, but the question is, what exactly? I mean, is it going to create the kind of artificial intelligence that he's looking for? Is it going to create, he also wants it to be the right kind of artificial intelligence, a friendly artificial intelligence, and all those sort of things. And to me, of course, with an interest in mind uploading or whole brain emulation, it doesn't have a direct connection with that. So it wouldn't really give me anything that would help me along. So for me, that's why it's a tangential interest.
Yeah, a little bit tangent, something you're interested in, but yeah, tangential from your main research. That does bring a question to my mind, though, about intelligence as we currently view it. Human intelligence that occurs through our wetware, our human brain, and intelligence that perhaps could arise from types of research that Novamente is doing, or other AI researchers like the Psych project. Where do you come down as far as, could some form of intelligence arise that's at least at a comparable level to the human being through those types of efforts? Or if we are going to create something artificially intelligent, is it going to be brain emulation?
I would like to say it's going to be brain emulation, but of course I don't know that for sure. What I can say is that the brain is quite complicated, and I think that if you look at what evolution has created in there, there are just so many details that we're just beginning to find out. I would find it surprising if we just happen to stumble across all of these in AGI or AI research, but again, that may not be necessary, because it could be possible to create an artificial intelligence that could be quite radically different from human intelligence. That would be something that comes out of something like Novamente, or I mean, there's a possibility there, though it's hard for me to get insight into that, because it's entirely unclear to me what could be missing right now, or what they do have a handle on, and whether there's enough peer review of the kind of research that's going into there. It's really unclear.
Okay. Yeah. Now, just to move on to a third subject, from prostheses to brain emulation to mind uploading, which is, of course, your website, minduploading.org. If any of the viewers there want to check that out and get further information on Professor Koene or some of his work, you can go over to minduploading.org. Now, this is something that many people have speculated about, being able to, once we have neural prostheses, and especially ones with intelligent software that provide feedback, what we've been talking about tonight, that what's the next step? We're going to start uploading minds, right? The human mind into the computer or into a different substrate. I mean, is that where you see everything going here with your research?
That is what my research is supposed to make possible.
Sure.
I mean, that would be that's my interest and my goal, is that we would manage to achieve substrate independence, because I think that's the greatest flexibility that we could give ourselves as individuals, or that we could give our species, in terms of our ability to live, thrive, and survive just about anywhere, in any circumstances. Yeah,
and
that's where it should go.
As far as I know this is dangerous territory here, but what kind of time frame do you see for this gradual transition from intelligent, neural prostheses to eventual mind uploading? I mean, we're going to see, obviously, in advanced labs already, and some hospitals, these prostheses being tested out within the next year or two. But at what point, are we talking a decade or 2 decades, you think, before we see any serious attempt to to upload a mind into a different substrate?
Yeah, everyone always asks that question.
They do,
how long is it
yes.
going to be? That's because, of course, we're all interested to know, is this going to happen in my lifetime? Is it going to happen when I'm still young? All these things.
Oh, sure.
Now, what I say is generally that it's hard to give a real prediction of what time it'll take. But I can say this. I haven't come across... Now, we've done a lot of investigation of what the roadmap could be to get to something like mind uploading, what kind of tasks it would take, what sort of projects. And I haven't yet been told of or come across any specific project where someone said, okay, we need to do a clinical trial that is, for some obscure reason, going to take 100 years to complete. So there isn't any one particular bit in there that's going to take an enormous amount of time. But there are a lot of pieces.
Yeah.
That means, okay, if you have a lot of resources and a lot of interest being put into this project, then you can do a lot of those pieces in parallel, which shortens the time to getting there considerably. But if you have little interest, few resources, then it takes a lot longer to get there. So it's really a matter of how much do you put into it to see if it's going to be 10, 20, who knows how many years. But I wouldn't say that there's any particular roadblock there that would make it something that goes way beyond our lifetimes.
Well, yeah, it's a rather radical concept, many people and that I know talk about mind uploading, but also a lot of people are reasonably afraid of such technology as well. And I know that you're listed on the Lifeboat Foundation as an advisor, and I just want to know what you foresee as some of the greatest dangers with this type of research.
The dangers of the research or the dangers of the outcome?
Yeah, let's say, the